Thanks for tuning in for the Tactics Meeting podcast. We've got a great show lined up for you today. But before we get started, a couple of save the dates for everybody. The Washington State Maritime Cooperative has its Joint Information Center training coming up on August 6th in Everett, Washington at the MSRC facility. You can sign up by clicking on the QR code here on the screen or going to the WSMIC website, which is wsmcoop.org. This really is to prepare communicators to participate in the September 10th ship-fired table talk exercise. So if you're a PIO, liaison officer, incident commander, anybody interested in communications, jump on over and sign up. There's still plenty of space available. Next is the Washington State Maritime Cooperative Preparedness Conference. If you attended last year, and I hope you did, people loved it, and we're doing it again. This year, we're doing 2 days. It's October 21st and 22nd, being held in Ruston at the Silver Cloud Hotel. Day one will be a training day. We'll have HAZWOPER and in some other training classes. I personally am going to teach how to use AI in emergency response. So that ought to be a great class. And then we'll have a cocktail reception in the evening hosted by Clean Harbors. Thank you, Clean Harbors. And then the next day is the conference. So it's going to be amazing. Plenty of space. Click the QR code to sign up. Now let's get to this amazing episode. It's time for another episode of the Tactics Meeting, the program where we talk to subject matter experts about response tactics and technology. And today I'm excited to have Peter Montella and Brian O'Neill with us. They've written a new book on emergency response. I saw the post on LinkedIn and said I got to have these guys because they're talking about the ship fires and response and the port and all the things that we've been talking about over the last number of episodes. So thank you both for coming on the program.
Thank you.
Brian, I want to start with you. How did you end up in emergency response to get you to the point where you had to write a book?
Well, thank you for having me on. Peter and I enjoy talking about these things. We had, early in my life, I worked in the ports, heavy equipment operations. I was a mechanic, and then I went to the law enforcement community in Jersey City. And as I promoted through the ranks, the mayor at the time said to me, "We're having some problem in the port areas. Can you help us out?" I said, "All right." So I went in and I started building relationships with the port facility operators. They found out what some of the problems were, most of them quality of life, few thefts, stuff like that. But they also had different types of accidents. So we were there to reassure them that our first responder community, would be able to help them out. So we did a variety of different things, active shooters and things like that. We had maybe a 6-year program where the port facility operators would meet with the police department. And then as I graduated through a lot of those meetings, I learned more about the port infrastructure and how important it is to the international supply chain. When I retired from the police department, I got hired by a state agency, and months after I joined them, they asked if anybody understood anything about the ports, and I got brought in and they said we need a training program, and I said, all right. I was teaching at John Jay at the time, so writing lesson plans was no problem. When I wrote the first lesson plan, they liked it, but they wanted me to submit it to DHS for approval so that people could get overtime for attending the classes, and it would be a nationwide approval process. So I said, okay. So I submitted the paperwork along with the formula for DHS certification process, and they approved it on the first run. That doesn't happen very often. And
Unprecedented, really.
yeah, they usually have 10 or 15 edits. But this one went right through. I think it was probably because it was so unique that not many people in DHS had an understanding of the ports and how complex they were. And I broke it out into 5 modules. So Brian O'Neill wasn't teaching the course. I taught the geography, the local geography, and some of the critical infrastructure issues. But then I had somebody from the Port Authority come in and talk about port operations. I had somebody from Customs and Border Protection come in, and they talked about how they scan and how they do risk assessments on cargo coming into the United States. I had somebody from the fire department come in and talk about the response capabilities that they would have to deal with a port emergency. I had medical team, emergency response teams come in and talk about, their capabilities to deal with maritime emergencies. I had FBI agents. And then I had the state police come in and do their analysis unit, did threats, risks, and vulnerabilities, so that the participants in the class would understand better what they were going to be dealing with if they had a port in their jurisdiction. So things started to evolve very quickly. They needed ICS training. So what I did was I did a 1-day class for the port awareness and response training, and then I did a 3-day class for the incident command systems 313, which Texas A&M came in and ran the program, and then they did a maritime exercise at the end. So the courses were certified, so it was getting their ICS certifications completed, and the Division of Fire Safety and the EMS units gave CEUs for the course I was delivering on the port awareness. And then the NYPD reached out to me and said, "Oh, we understand you're doing things in the port. Can we come over and check it out?" So I let them come in, take a class, and they said, "Could you bring that over to our command over in counterterrorism? We'd like you to deliver it to our command staff." And I said, "Sure." And I did the delivery, and I met Pete Montella.
That bring that brings us to there. So I guess the same route. What was your route to meet Brian?
Well, yeah, I was in back in 2007. I was in counterterrorism. I joined the police department when I was 24 in 1989, and then I was out on patrol in Brooklyn, the Bronx, back to Brooklyn, and then I went to the police academy. So I had a little bit of training background. When I went to counterterrorism, I was taught 7 classes, police science. I was a firearms instructor for almost 6 years. So I had, when I went to counterterrorism, I was in the training unit working with a whole bunch of guys. And this is what came up to us. They said, there's a need for maritime infrastructure awareness of what's going on for the 8.5 million people for New York City. So everything from electric, water, bridges, tunnels, which everyone sees and all that. And then there was this one little gap that no one really knew anything up until we saw Brian talking about port operations. What's a cargo, what's a container terminal? What is bulk cargo? What's break cargo? What is petroleum facilities like? So very little experience with it. So we went out there, started getting involved, learning a lot about this stuff. And then I started working with Brian, and we delivered this class for I'm well over 10,000 police officers, firefighters, EMS. What's that?
In multiple states. It wasn't just
multiple states too. So, but at the end of the day, every day, and I'm doing this since 2007, every day I'm still learning something new. But at the end, I look at, I was an EMT. I worked for a volunteer community organization. I worked for Jamaica Hospital. So I've taken a lot of that first responder, getting to the scene and sizing it up, primary survey, secondary survey, and even in the police department, they would bring us to facilities to learn what's the environment you're going to be working into, and that's how this really came about. There's couple other little stories of how it came about, but at the end of the day, most police officers, firefighters, and EMS in the surrounding area it's all new to them, and that's kind of what we're trying to do. Put them in an environment that they're not that they don't really have any awareness of, and teach them that of how it works. Just getting to the facility, who do we talk to when you get to the facility? When you drive by the Jersey Turnpike and you see all those cranes out there, you're like, oh, that's real. That everybody knows it's cargo, but what's the problem? The problem is, how do we get into that environment? Who do we talk to? How many gates are there? What happens when we have truck traffic? And then there's the other issues all around the marine terminals. Sometimes we have major issues that have nothing to do with the marine terminals. So now what happens? So how do we deal with that? So the same first responders that respond to stuff on the roadways are the same responders coming into our infrastructure. And for me, I see the fire departments all the time doing these building inspections once a year. They go in and they check to make sure they have their fire extinguishers and their fire command systems, and they know what's around there. There hazardous materials at sensitive location, and a lot of maritime facilities don't do that because they're busy. They're busy learning a whole bunch of other stuff. So that we decided to, let's bring these first responders in. Let's give them the opportunity to walk around, ask questions. Let's let them know this is how the facility operates and works. And then after doing this for so long, Brian and I would be, I'd say, oh, that's something would happen. Somebody would say something, and I would just lean over to Brian and say, that's a chapter for a book. And we just kept saying that, as you go through life, oh, that would be a good chapter if I was ever writing a book. And one day Brian said, I think we have enough to write a book. So the book really for us is to memorialize. Our first intention was to memorialize what we've done over the years. And then the other part is to show people the gap for the first due responders. This is, we have search and rescue guys, we have marine firefighters, guys are well trained. This book is for them, but really the book is for those first due companies. That was our goal at the time. And we've gotten such great feedback from a lot of other industries saying, hey, this is great awareness. So it exceeded.
People helped us write the book. We sent this chapters out to Don John and to Resolve and to qualified individuals and to shipping companies. We wanted to make sure that we didn't have any gaps in the book and that we were telling the story that they wanted to have heard. And then when we started to get that feedback from them, we realized that, okay, fine, this is not going to be the Brian and Peter show. This is going to be the Maritime Industry show. And the qualified individuals that we spoke with, spoke about you, Dan, very highly, said we should contact you. You were working in the same field, and we knew your background from the LinkedIn. So I reached out to you.
Yeah, no, I'm super glad you did, because we've been working kind of in parallel efforts. I haven't written a book, although I am writing a book. I call it the Incident Management Companion, and it's okay. I guess it's more my opinion on how to pull off the incident command system. Then it's not an incident management handbook. That already exists. We don't need to make another one of those. But
my new edition now too.
Yeah, I like it. I was a little bit. It's upstairs on my coffee table, actually. I was a little hesitant when I first saw it because I'm so used to the 2014 version, right? And I looked at the 2025 version. I'm like, I'm not sure about what they've done here. But as it turns out, I really like it. So did you have a role in it?
As part of the Area Maritime Security Committee, we get questions, a variety of questions on how do you operate in your port. So indirectly, yes, but directly, no.
No, I do think it's a good version. I've been referring to it a lot lately as I've been working on projects. I particularly like that they put a history of ICS in the front of it, and there's a few other things that they did in this new edition that I really like. Um, so there's that. I did write. It's not a book. It's more of a pamphlet, really. A guide for forming unified command in shipboard fires, and we're using it. We did a big drill last year in conjunction with the Seattle Fire Department, the state of Washington, Sector Puget Sound. And like you, when you were writing your book, I went to TNT Salvage, I went to Resolve, I went to others, I went to the Coast Guard. And so as you're looking at, what does it take to form an effective unified command in this unique situation, um, got a lot of good feedback. And so, that booklet, I think is super useful. And we're doing another drill, a ship fire drill, actually going to be a tank barge on September 10th, here in Seattle in conjunction with the Seattle Fire Department, where we'll be using that guide to form unified command.
Well,
And
if we
that's one
could
of
help you, we could help you out just a little bit in that area. Peter and I, before we wrote the book, were doing a series of Homeland Security exercise and evaluation program exercises. And what we wanted to do in Blue Sky area, we wanted to introduce them to the port facilities. So we wrote a program, we wrote an exercise on container terminal emergency response. And we had the engineers on the facility, we had the security staff on the facility come in and help us deliver a program to the first responders, police, fire, EMS, and said, listen, a gantry crane that's up, 240 feet, Pete, I think is the top level on
75,
this. Yeah. So we would do a PowerPoint presentation with them for about an hour. The engineers would talk about the 13,000 kilovolts that were operating those gantry cranes and how the wind could be blowing 30 miles an hour, and the ILA worker would still be up there. We sat down we had an ILA worker with us, and they were talking about, some of the emergencies they've had to deal with and how they help the first responder community. So I would recommend that you do things along those lines as well, not just a fire, but also a rescue operation. So what we did find is some first responders are better on the ground than they are up in the air. When they got up to about 100 and 150 feet, they were like, the wind was blowing, they were shifting side to side. They went back down. They couldn't handle it.
right.
And then they're over the water. They're when that gantry crane is down in its load unload position, they have to walk out onto that platform and then get to the operator that's actually underneath the crane looking at the cargo container ship itself. So there's a lot of maneuvering up there, and it's not a very large walkway. So
Yeah, I don't normally consider myself to be afraid of heights, but there's heights and then there's heights.
yes,
Right. Right.
yeah.
And you're looking through a floor, so it's actually a metal grating. It's not really a floor where you see the water, and that's the thing. These container terminals have maintenance guys up there. They have people in the e-house that's controlling the computers, the safety, all the electric goes up in there, all the cables that operate that crane. So there are other people just besides the guy in the operator's booth. So we do drills, and we're not doing a real rescue. Before we could do the rescue, I got to bring people up there to kind of see what they're looking around and say, wow. And we've had firemen, police officers, EMTs, hey, I'm afraid of heights. Like you said, there's height and then there's height. So, and I always say to them, this is the time I want to find out that you're not comfortable up here. We bring up 15, 20 people onto a crane. During the incident, I may only need 2 or 3 people up there. But at the end of the day, you know, what is it like to get up there? What is it like to walk all the way up? They're like, well, we got to walk up there. We can't take the elevator. Well, probably we're going to shut the power down during this emergency. So you're going to have to walk up. You're going to have to walk down. And you'll see guys like, you know, I hurt my leg or I'm not feeling good. Okay, I want to know that now, not when you, I don't want you to walk all the way up there and now you become part of the mission. So those are great opportunities and they all come back on, this was so great. I wish we could do more of this because we're putting them in that environment that no one ever got to see.
And then just before the tragedy on the Grimaldi ship 3 years ago, back on Sunday was the anniversary. Peter and I were doing electric vehicle hazards in the maritime intermodal transportation system. And that's a mouthful. But we had gone through that, we were doing double sessions because when we talked about doing this, we met with the, excuse me, spam calls. Sorry. The police departments, the fire departments, the EMS units were responding to these electric vehicle fires. The fire department was using like 10,000 gallons of water to put them out. Now, if you have one,
well, putting them out is maybe not quite the word.
Correct, right.
Control, maybe, right?
Knocking it down.
Right.
So knocking it down, yeah. So I said, so now you have one vehicle and it's using up that amount of water. What if you had 7,000, which is what they're transporting on a car carrier? And the Port of Newark is one of the largest auto transport centers. Baltimore is another one, but the vehicles that are coming in on a regular basis, 3 or 4 of these car carriers are coming in. They, you know, how are you going to be able to manage this? So we said, we're going to do a like an NTSB review of electric vehicle type fires. And in the planning stages, a call, we were supposed to meet with the deputy chief in Jersey City. And he called and he said, I'm going to be a little late. We got a bad fire over here. And I said, okay. And he finally gets to the meeting and he goes, Brian, could you give me 7 numbers for the lottery? I said, you know what? And he goes, yeah. He says, because we just had an electric vehicle fire right off the ship, right inside the container, right inside the prep center. And he said, we couldn't get the damn thing out. He said, we went through 20 fire extinguishers and it's inside a building. And I said, wow. I said, so you know the importance of what I'm talking about now? He said, yes. So I wrote this program and I put in videos where tow truck drivers are, you know, getting the car into the lot and it's starting up on fire again on them. I was explaining to the firefighters, listen, my father's a firefighter. My brother Dennis was a firefighter. He's also the superintendent of the National Fire Academy years ago. I said, you like to bust chops and say, oh, you couldn't get the fire out. I had to come and refit your or redo your work. I said, don't blame them for these electric vehicles. They say, because it could be totally doused. And I said, and 3 hours later, it can start up again.
Yeah. 3 months later, 6 months later, right? Right.
Exactly.
And the key here that I think is really important to stress is it's not a fire. We say fire. It's not a
chemical
fire.
reaction.
It's a chemical reaction, right? It's producing its own oxygen. You are not putting it, you know, you're not going to stop it. There's no mechanism for, yet anyway, for breaking that chemical chain. You know, halon's not going to work on it. None of that's going to work, right?
And they've tried foam and a bunch of other things, even suffocating it. In New York City for the e-bikes, what they were doing is they had a bathtub. They purchased this big 100-gallon or 200-gallon bathtub and they just throw the bikes in there because they were having so many fires at the repair shops where they were putting in cheaper batteries or they were repairing the batteries, and we were losing buildings and everything else like that. And Pete and I went around to all these conferences to explain to them what was going on. In fact, we went down to Virginia after the fire and we're doing that electric vehicle presentation for them as well. So when the fire occurred, July 2023, Pete calls me up. It's about 9:30. And he said, Brian, we got a bad fire. He says, I said, okay, in the port. He goes, we're not sure if it's electric vehicles or not. I said, okay, get back to me, let me know. Then he calls me back. We lost 2 firefighters. And I'm like, oh my God. Newark firefighters. He goes, yeah, we had just finished the program. What date was that, Pete? 29th we finished them?
We taught most of their department, June 19th to June 23rd, and then June 26th to June 29th. And so what, 6, 7 days later, we have this ship fire. And just so everyone understands, at no point Brian and I talk tactics. I'm not here to teach you how to be a fireman, not here to teach you to be a police officer, a tactic guy, whatever it may be. My job is to inform you of the threat. And this is the threat or the conditions that you're going to walk into. And, we've gotten, I showed up that morning and I see Newark Fire guys and they said, you and Brian were spot on. Everything that you said could happen happened on that ship that day. And again, we're not here to talk about tactics, but do you know the layout of the ship? Do you know that everybody knows the vessel response plan? Has anybody really looked at it? Does anybody know those symbols? Like that's the stuff that they, location, location, location. Where are you on that vessel? What is those symbols on those letters and those codes on the ship walls? So that's what we're trying to promote with these guys. And unfortunately, it happened as we were doing it. And, and that was hey, we got to really, because we were doing these vessel tours and facility tours. There was no rush. We would just, we do a couple of hundred a year. We were good. Now, after post the fire, we've done well over 2,200 first responders because there's that need. There's that, hey, we need this knowledge. And it's a lot of the knowledge can be in the classroom. And that's what we've done. We did a classroom
virtual vessel tours,
videos and all that. And then after you take that class, you come to the ship, and that's the day that everything we explained to you in that classroom for 2 hours, now you get to really experience it on the vessel.
You get the context.
Yeah. And for me, the biggest thing about all of that is how they talk with the crew. The crew and the first responders start talking to each other and they start teaching themselves. And they realize that a lot of stuff they don't know. And it's not a bad thing. You don't know. But again, we're not here to teach you how to put out the fire. We're just teaching you how do you move around this vessel.
And you know one vessel. Because you could be on a container ship, a bulk carrier, a cargo ship, a ro-ro ship, a conroe ship, and they're all different sizes. And when we would bring them on the vessel, like, oh, we run a 340-meter vessel last week, that'll be the same this week, and it's totally different. We've gone on to the same fleet of vessels with NYK and ACL and Grimaldi. And even the ships that they come were built in different years. So everything that was on the right-hand side is now on the left-hand side, All right. The symbols really don't change because they're IMO symbols, International Maritime Organization symbols. But for the most part, like where things are all different. But we had set up an itinerary, an established itinerary, no matter what type of vessel, to take them to these places to show them that your mutual aid to that ship's fire department, your mutual aid to that ship's medical team, your mutual aid to that ship's security team, and the master is the incident commander on board the vessel. Most vessels are internationally flagged, and even with Customs and Border Protection, they have to ask permission to come on the vessel. That can be a problem for some agencies that want to rush right in and try and take over the operation. If the captain doesn't know you're on the vessel, he doesn't know whether he's able to activate his CO2 or not, or any other fire suppression system that might be available to him or her at the time. And they do an accountability check. That's one of the places we bring them into as well. There's numbers and circles on the floor of the top deck or the weather deck, and every one of them's got a number or it's got a title name, and that person, that sailor, has to be in that position before the master, the captain of the vessel, will take any action to suppress the fire beyond, you know, the water and the fire extinguishers and things along those lines.
Right. Well, and that's completely separate from the idea of lithium ion battery chemical
Correct.
reactions. I mean, that just happens to be the 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 thing that's causing the emergency itself, but managing the emergency is what you're talking about, and you're absolutely right. You know, these are these foreign flag vessels are an extension of another country. So that's also completely different, and they all have contracts with one of the big three salvage marine firefighting contractors. Those people are coming, and I think doing familiarization is great. But here's where my position maybe isn't super popular. I don't want you on my ship, fire department. Stay off my ship. Right.
That's what Pete tells them all the time.
I'm coming in as the responsible party incident commander. Don't go on my ship. Right. You can start putting water on the side shelf to set fire boundaries. If you can see open weather deck doors that you can assist the crew in closing, fine. I don't care how much
you want to get the fire control plan and pull it out to your incident command and
fine.
Then open it up. You can do all that stuff. It's not that you're doing nothing. It's that you're planning to get the information you need to have to help.
Right, exactly. And you're there to help. It's a very alien situation for a municipal fire department, because it's not like when you show up to a building in, Newark, New Jersey, that there's a building captain and a crew that's fighting the fire inside that building. There's no question about who's in charge. The fire department has it, right? And even if they call for mutual aid, if New York comes, other people come, they're not forming unified command. They're just rolling those people into their support structure. The local battalion chief is the incident commander, and that's it. But that's not what happens on board ships. And I don't want you on my ship, period. Right?
Yeah.
Right.
To your point, when we do these vessel tours, I tell the first responder community, you're good at ICS. You're good at setting up a staging area, an incident command post, a communication section, a triage area. Where are all these mutual aid companies coming in? How are you staging them? And this is what we talked to a lot with the SMFFs. They said, when we get there, and if the local agencies are all organized, ready to go, that makes our job that much easier. And that's that awareness we're trying to tell them. And we have a checklist it's in the book, and we can give it to you online on our website. But it's to kind of slow them down to, what do I need to know? Well, what kind of vessel is it? What kind of fuel does it have? Where are what are the draft readings when you got there? Because maybe the SMFF or the qualified individual is not getting there for a couple of hours later. That's all crucial information, and they don't need to go on that vessel. And and again, you're the first two companies. There's no guidance there. So this is what we're trying to get them to understand. And this is the first time after the ship fire for a lot of local agencies didn't know what a qualified individual was, didn't know that there was an SMFF. Like you talked about the three majors, right? They don't know this. And maybe someone in their chief, the 4-star chief in their department knows, but the first due companies don't know this stuff. And that's kind of where we're looking for. And as we've gone through this, now we're getting a lot of the executive staff participating. I encourage them all to come on to the vessel, and they come on to the vessel, and that's, you get an executive guy, never been on a vessel before. And a part of that is the safety of the industry. we do have a really good safety record where we don't have a lot of these things. So the first responder community is not always at our facilities because the ILA workers, they do a great job by being safe. If there's something that happens at a container terminal and 25 containers tip over, nobody gets hurt, no fire, no police needed. They don't call the local first responders because they clean up the mess themselves.
Right.
So you have a lot of true professionals all throughout this agency. And that's kind of what we're trying to teach the first responder community. We need you, show up, but don't go onto the ship.
Don't go onto the ship. I can't say that enough. Everybody who's
Don't go on the ship.
Yeah. And
and when you're putting water on it, don't sink my ship.
Yeah.
All right.
Well, that's the other thing too. We try to tell them every gallon of water you put on there, you got to take that off. Brian says it all the time, and I'll let Brian say it.
No, you're absolutely right. And I am more concerned about the follow-on environmental issues than I am about the ship's fire. You put so much water on that ship, you roll it on its side, and now I've got 500,000 gallons of diesel fuel in the middle of the port. You just shut that port down for 3 months, right? That's a huge deal. That ship is insured. That cargo is insured. I don't care if you put that fire out or not. Don't sink the ship, right? That's it.
I was at a conference where somebody said, one of the SMFFs, like, think about it this way. We're flying in professionals, marine firefighters from all around the world. It may take them 24, 36 hours to get onto the scene. What's your rush? You're like, and that put a whole new perspective for me. These guys are coming in, local guys are coming in, and we all got Class A personalities. Don't tell me what to do. I know what to do. We're going in, we're going in, we're going in. But at the end of the day, if the professionals have to fly people from one side, I will just keep it local, from Seattle to New York, that's 6 hours. That guy's not on scene for another 6 hours. So that 12 hours went by on a really good day. What's the rush? Like you said, put water on it. But before you put water on it, who are you talking to? Are you talking to the crew? Are you talking to the cap? Is there a qualified individual there? Is there a representative from the SMFF there already? Did that local agency, did you set up all your things that you need? And for me, any type of incident happens anywhere, I'm going to need bathrooms. I'm going to need light. I'm going to need gasoline. I need fuel. I need water and food for my guy. So that takes a couple of hours just to establish all that. And if it's hot weather, I need cooling stations. If it's the wintertime, I need heating stations. There's so much of that stuff that can take place before they even think about putting that fire out.
Yeah. And you mentioned ICS, and yes, the fire departments are good at it, but the average fire department is running ICS for between, I don't know, 2 to 6 hours for an incident. 12 hours would be a really long incident. This is going to go on for 2 weeks. Right.
Well, that's one of the chapters in our book is the operational periods need to be established right away. The Grimaldi fire was 6 days.
Yeah.
Some go for weeks.
Some go for weeks. And local fire departments, that's not a battle rhythm, a tempo they're used to. Right. They're not staffed for that. These people have to get back and man their stations. They're staffed to deal with their city, their area of responsibility. They can't have, 4 alarms sitting in the port for the next 2 weeks. They just can't do it. Right.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And that's why you need the salvage marine firefighting contractors to come in. That's not to say that they're going to completely leave. When I was doing the Kodiak Enterprise fire in Tacoma, Tacoma Fire kept a hose truck and a company there throughout the entire thing. There was some representation. Even once they'd really turned it over to the salvage marine firefighting contractor, they remained there as a presence and support. So that So
And
that
what
was great.
some agencies don't realize is the qualified individual has a blank check. And whatever resources you use in the city's resources that you use for whatever purpose can be either replaced or replenished. And they'll pay for that, including the overtime to keep you on scene. And if that creates a situation where the municipality says, hey, there's a lot more of these types of things happening or whatever, the qualified individual will be looking at, okay, is it training programs you need? What can we do to help support, the local first responder to build that, I don't know what you call synergies, where we're both working together to support each other.
Well, and the federal unseen coordinator is going to open the oil spill liability trust fund,
Mm-hmm.
right? And it's going to be available to cover the cost of federal assets, and really, in addition to what the responsible party through the qualified individual and their contracted incident management team, is going to cover the oil spill liability trust fund, provided that the activities taking place are directly related to a stated objective in the incident action plan,
Yep.
can be covered by the trust fund. And you're going to get a unified command that's going to be made up by the responsible party, whoever's representing Grimaldi in that case. In this case, it was Gallagher Marine Systems.
Right.
Could have been somebody else. You're going to get the Coast Guard in the form of the Federal Unseen Coordinator under the National Contingency Plan. You're going to get a state agency. I don't know what that is in New Jersey. Here in Washington, it's the Department of Ecology. In Oregon, it's the Department of Environmental Quality. In California, it's OSPR, and on and on and on.
They're all environmentally based.
Oh, they're all environmental. Yeah. But and then you're going to get somebody, hopefully somebody from the fire department that is going to come. And what we've been teaching is that you're going to need another senior command officer to come to the command post, right? You're going to have your on-scene incident commander in the form of a battalion chief or a deputy chief or whatever, and that's great. We're going to need somebody else, at the deputy chief level in unified command. And that's what we got from Seattle Fire at our drill last year. And we're excited to be doing this again as a full command post exercise in September, where we're exercising exactly that: a separate command level officer who's coming to the command post to be the fire department incident commander.
And we added one extra thing to the program where we introduced the white shirts, the deputy or battalion chiefs, to the master. And if the master would like to have a command person up on the bridge with them so that they can help coordinate the land-based assets with the shipboard assets, we thought that was a good idea. And that was a recommendation that we asked, if the shipping companies would approve that. And they said, given depending on the circumstances, I wouldn't put anybody on what's going on in the Black Sea right now, or Strait of Hormuz, but, a simple, emergency, things like that, to have somebody up in with the master so that they can coordinate activities.
I wonder if LA Fire did that with the Henry Hudson. Do you have any idea?
Don't know.
Okay.
The other thing is that when we introduce the crew members, we ask them, the firefighters, law enforcement, EMS, did you understand what they said while they were explaining what they did? And they shaking their head, no. Said, under stress, what language do you think they're going to go to? Oh yeah. They said, just be calm. Speak slowly to them. They are brilliant. They've gone to significant number of schools to learn what they do. And I said, they know the ship inside and out. They can probably manufacture any tool you want. And, just don't dismiss them because they don't speak perfect English. So
Let's circle back to the book. So you've written the book.
Sure.
What does the book cover? What is the range of topics that we're getting out of this new guidance?
Sure. So there's 14 chapters, and we didn't write it just for one first responder community. We wrote it for all three. And the first thing is what you said earlier in the presentation. You're like, the ship is not a building, and you have to treat it differently. There's a command structure on that vessel. We talk about all of the component parts of the vessel response plan. Getting the fire control plan information out to your incident command post. We talk about the staging areas and the safety zones around a vessel so that they don't have a snapback incident where the rope breaks away and drives through the vehicles that are parked too close to it. The string piece or the area right at the dock space safety issues, and then all the things that Pete talked about today with regard to, when you're putting water on that, you need to make sure that they can dewater that vessel. Otherwise, you get the free surface effect, which you spoke about, where it's sloshing back and forth, and then, you capsize the ship in the harbor and shut the harbor down. So there's a wide range of topics in those areas. We don't talk tactics, as Pete mentioned. We just talk about the hazards or the concerns of operating in a port environment. And now we're moving into the facilities themselves. So we had the catastrophic event occur in July, and we expect that we'll have some incidents on the facilities. So we're doing the same thing for them as well.
Are you guys your own training company? Is that?
We started Vanguard Prepared because we didn't have a platform. We both work for agencies that require us to report, what we're doing. So I'm going to be released in a couple of weeks. I'm not changing the mission. I'm just changing my workbench. Pete's going to continue on doing what he's doing right now, and we're going to be writing training programs. We do posters right now. If you go into the LinkedIn, you see pretty much every day I'm putting up a safety type poster, and our clients are the three major salvage companies that want to have their training programs supported by the things that we're putting out. Some conferences, and we just started a new thing called Xbox, where we can write an exercise for you. If you want to deliver it yourself, fine. If you don't, we can do that as well. My son is a master exercise practitioner, so it's a national certification for that. I'm a HESIP certification. I have a HESIP certification, so I can write the exercises as well, but it's nice to have somebody on the national level certification board. And that's what we're doing. We're just going to stay maritime safety and preparedness, and carry the message.
And we're trying to get the local municipalities to understand like what's going on the other side of the world, the autonomous vessels that are ramming into vessels with explosives. Could that happen here? Highly unlikely, they will say, but have we thought about it? Have we planned for that? A pirate gets, someone repels off a bridge as the vessel's coming underneath the one of our bridges. And now, the crew has to lock themselves down. The crew knows what to do. They have all these protocols. Well, how do we help them? How do we join them? What's the plan? What are we going to do? And so does your specialty units, your tactical guys, your search and rescue guys, are you practicing enough onto vessels? And that's kind of where we can help them write programs. We can help them get onto vessels. So, it's that, nothing's going to happen. Nothing's going to happen. I'm a big proponent of being prepared, get out there, run through it. And a lot of these tabletop exercises, everyone comes at the end of the tabletop exercises, patting themselves on the back. What a great thing. They didn't go out to the ship. They didn't go out to the berth. You know, I always say this to Brian, you know, like if we decided to have an exercise on July 5th of 2023, and I said, I want to do a full-scale exercise or a tabletop exercise, everyone would have said, well, that's a vacation week. That is a, you know, that's a holiday week. You know, everyone's on vacation, all this other stuff. Okay, and we won't do it. We won't work in that environment. And then what happened? July 5th at 9 o'clock in 2023, we had a major shipping fire. And there are a lot of people that were probably on vacation, a lot of people that were away, and all had to come in. And people are not, you know, for me, they didn't have that awareness. Not that they didn't have the capability of putting out the fire. They don't have that awareness of, hey, what's a QI? What's the SMFF? So this is our mission of just keep informing these local municipalities on how the system works and how we can bridge these local municipality agencies, first responders, with the industry. I think there's that gap that that's what I want to move forward on, and make sure that, and if it gets to a point where some fire department calls up a QI or a port authority or some marine terminal and says, hey, we want to walk around your facility because I read a book, that's a win. You know, I don't need to be at everything that we do. And a lot of facilities that we've worked at, you know, the FSO says, he gives us a call, says, I just got a call from a captain from our local fire department. He wants to come in and drive around. He wants to do some rope work off the crane. I go, what'd you do? He said, I let him come in. They didn't go through Brian and I, but we made that relationship when they came to that facility. We explained how it worked. So a lot of first responders will take it upon themselves, but a lot of times they don't know where to begin. So I'm hoping that what we're doing gets them motivated enough to say, hey, we could do this ourselves. And if they can't do it, we're willing to help them as well. We can write programs for you, write drills and exercises for them.
That's all under the umbrella of Vanguard Prepared. As I said, you know, I'm not changing the mission. I'm just changing the workbench that I'm going to be on. And right. we can help municipal agencies, state agencies deal with this. It's a small community. Would you agree, Dan? I mean,
it's a very small community.
You know, but
right.
We think it's so important because it's our supply chain.
Yeah, right. Well, I mean, that you can add that little catchphrase below: Vanguard Prepared. We can help.
There you go.
There you go. And where to start? You've already said it. You want to know where to start? You start with Maritime Emergencies, a complete guide for land-based first responders. There's the place you start. You get the book. It's available on Amazon. It's available on Kindle. It's available in paperback and hardback. It's the place to start.
Absolutely.
Dan, thank you very much. I appreciate your time today. We're going to be going to conferences around the country. I think the next one's in October or November, and we'll be speaking there on panels discussing these types of topics.
Excellent. Well, Brian O'Neill, Peter Montella, Vanguard Prepares, thank you for taking the time to come on the show today.
Thank you
for having us.
If you like this episode, if you like the work that we do and trying to bring this educational material to you, consider being a sponsor. Jump over to terminus.us and click that sponsor button and help us keep all of this content coming. We appreciate it.